Good morning students. How are you all? I hope you all are safe and sound at your place. So myself Navneet Sidhu and I'll be taking your political science class today. Students will be taking up the second book first of all, that is the Politics of India since Independence, and in this book we'll be taking up the first chapter, that is Challenges of Nation Building. In our day-to-day life also we start with a lot of ventures and we face challenges. So similarly in this chapter also we'll be doing some of the learning objectives. So the first will be the challenges faced by the nation after independence. Secondly, you will be able to learn the consequences after the partition. And thirdly, we'll be taking the two nation theory. And the last learning objective of today's lecture will be the literary expressions by various poets and novelists. That is, so students, I welcome you all to the journey of making of India. So students, I would like to ask a question from you, that what is the meaning of independence for you and what is its importance for you? Now, journalizing this fact, if your parent allow you to go clubbing, parties and late night adventures, it would be independence for you. But let me tell you students, the meaning and importance of independence was very much different back then in 1947. Where situations were critical and questions of life and death arose. Now again, if I ask you one question, that what was non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement? Yes, these two movements were related to our independence movement and freedom movement. People of India were in dire need of independence, freedom from British rule. Thus, the meaning of independence and value of independence means a lot. This is what we are going to do in this chapter, that is challenges faced by India after independence and consequences after partition. So let's start the journey of making of India, students. Now in the first slide, it is being shown that on 14th and 15th August in the midnight of 1947, India attained independence. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of Free India, addressed a special session of the Constituent Assembly that night. This was the famous Tourist with Destiny speech that you all are familiar with. Now, there were two goals almost everybody agreed upon. First, that after independence, we shall run our country through democratic government, and the second, that the government will be run for the good of all, particularly the poor and the socially disadvantaged group. So let's see one clipping of the Tourist with Destiny, and students watch it carefully. I'll ask you some questions and of course I'll share some interesting fact also.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. A moment comes, which comes but rarely in history, when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends, and when the soul of a nation.
Students, the Tourist with Destiny has values also, like eliminating of poverty, eliminating of ignorance, and eliminating of inequality. So these were the dream of Pandit Nehru, and his speech marked the birth of independent nation. So students, questions for you. So which building you are watching in the video? Yes, it's Parliament House. And some interesting facts related to Parliament House is that it was opened in 1927 and it took almost 6 years to build this magnificent building. And two architects, Sir Edwin and Sir Herbert, were responsible, or you can say they were responsible for making of this magnificent building what we have right now with us. Another question, who was the first Prime Minister? Yes, it was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Who was the first President of independent India? Yes, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Now let's come to the 3 Ds of challenge faced by India exactly after independence. Remember, students, if you will remember all these 3 Ds, you will be easily able to explain the 3 challenges very effectively and efficiently. So the first challenge says that is the diversity. The first and the immediate challenge was to shape a nation that was united, yet accommodative of the diversity in our society. India was a land of continental size and diversity. Its people spoke different languages and followed different culture and religions. At that time, it was widely believed that a country full of such kind of diversity could not remain together for long. The partition of country appeared to prove everyone's worst fear. And the second is democracy. Now, the second challenge was to establish democracy. You have already studied the Indian Constitution in your +1. You know that the Constitution granted fundamental rights and extended the right to vote to every citizen. India adopted representative democracy based on the parliamentary form of government. These features ensure that the political competition would take place in democratic framework. A democratic constitution is necessary but not sufficient for establishing democracy. Now, the challenge was to develop democratic practices in accordance with the constitution. This is the second challenge we have seen. Let's come to the third one. Now, the third challenge was to ensure the development and well-being of the entire society and not only some section. Here again, the Constitution clearly laid down the principle of equality and special protection to socially disadvantaged groups and religious and cultural communities. Now, the Constitution also set out in the directive principle of state policy the welfare goals a democratic politics must achieve. Now, the real challenge here was to evolve effective policies for economic development and eradication of poverty. Now, here we have seen in first and second 5-year plan also that Mr. Nehru had initiated the development of agriculture and industry. That was included in the third challenge faced by India. Now, let's summarize these 3 Ds. I repeat again, first was to shape a united nation that accommodated the diversity of the country. Second was to establish the democracy. And third was to ensure the development and well-being of the entire society and not only of some sections. Let's move to the two-nation theory now. Now, on 14th and 15th August 1947, not one but two nation states came into existence. That is India and Pakistan. This was a result of partition, the division of British India into India and Pakistan. The drawing of border demarcating the territory of each country marked the culmination of political developments that you have read about in the history books in the previous years. Now, according to the two-nation theory, what it says, it was advanced by the Muslim League leader Muhammad Ali Jinnah. India consisted of not one but two people, Hindus and Muslims. That is why it demanded Pakistan a separate country for Muslims. Now, according to Jinnah, the two communities have different culture, different food habits, and different history. So, according to him, he said that two communities cannot reside in one country. So that is why he was in favor of making of two countries. So he proposed two-nation theory and Congress opposed two-nation theory. I repeat once again in summarized form, it was proposed by Muslim League under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. According to this theory, India consisted of two people, Muslims and Hindus. Now, it demanded a separate state for Muslims that was to be named Pakistan, and now here it was opposed by Congress. This was basically the two-nation theory. Let's come further. Now, the two-nation theory was proposed and opposed also. Now, let's see what kind of partition India had seen, what kind of process India has seen of partition. Thus, it was decided that what was still then known as India would be divided into two countries, India and Pakistan. Such a division was not only very painful but also very difficult to decide and to implement. It was decided to follow the principle of religious majorities. This basically means that area where Muslims were in majority would make up the territory of Pakistan. The rest was to stay with India. The idea might appear very simple, but it presented all kinds of difficulties. First of all, there was no single belt of Muslim majority area in British India. There were two areas of concentration, one in the west and one in the east. There was no way these two parts could be joined. So, it was decided that the new country, Pakistan, will comprise two countries, West and East Pakistan, separated by a long expanse of Indian territory. Now, here, secondly, not all Muslims majority area wanted to be in Pakistan. They have given one example also here, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who is also known as a Frontier Gandhi, the undisputed leader of Northwestern Frontier Province and known as the Frontier Gandhi, was staunchly opposed to the two-nation theory, and his voice was simply ignored, and the Northwest Frontier Province was made to merge with Pakistan. Now, here it has been summarized in few points. I repeat once again for your comfort. Approval of two-nation theory led to the decision of partition of India. It was decided to divide India into two parts, Pakistan and India. The areas of Muslim majority were going to be part of Pakistan, and the remaining areas were going to be part of India. Now, there were two areas of Muslim concentration, one in west and other in the east, with vast expanse of Indian territory in middle. There was no way to join the two parts. Hence, it was decided that Pakistan will comprise of two parts, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Now, let's come to another slide which shows the consequences of partition. We have seen the challenges, we have seen the two-nation theory, we have seen the process of partition. Now, let's see what were the consequences. Now, before coming to the consequences, I would like to show you one video which will let you know the clear picture of what happened in 1947. And remember, students, after the video, question hour.
In March 1947, Earl Louis Mountbatten and his wife Edwina arrive in New Delhi. The great-grandson of Queen Victoria and second cousin to George VI, Mountbatten brings a regal presence to the drama of India's independence. As the last viceroy, he bears responsibility for India's fate.
2nd of April, 1947. I have now completed my first week in office. I should like to be able to paint an encouraging picture of my first impressions, but feel it would be misleading if I did so. The scene here is one of unrelieved gloom. At this early stage, I can see little common ground on which to build any agreed solution for the future of India. The only conclusion I have been able to come to is that unless I act quickly, I may well find the real beginnings of a civil war on my hands.
By May, attempts to create a unified India have failed. Gandhi retreats from political life. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, leader of the Muslim League, and Jawaharlal Nehru of the Indian National Congress concede to divide India. Fearing a total loss of control, Mountbatten brings forward the transfer of power to August. Two nations will be created by partition, a secular India and a new homeland for India's Muslims, Pakistan. Independence, Nehru addresses the people of India.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
The 15th of August, 1947. The British Empire in India has come to an end. The last Viceroy, Louis Mountbatten.
The flag raising and the salute were done amid scenes of the most fantastic rejoicing. And as the flag broke, a brilliant rainbow appeared in the sky, which was taken by the crowd as a good omen.
Qasim Muhammad.
On the 15th of August came freedom. The freedom to burn, loot and murder. While Delhi and Karachi were celebrating, central Punjab was burning.
Between August 1947 and March 1948, 4.5 million Hindus and Sikhs are forced to migrate from Pakistan to India. 6 million Muslims must move in the opposite direction. Britons and Indians witness the bloodshed. Shahid Ahmed.
It is a battleground. People have gone mad. Trains to Pakistan are being looted and occupants slaughtered. We all knew that carnage was in the offing. So did Mountbatten. The British Empire, which tried to build India over centuries, can never live down this great tragedy.
Lieutenant Colonel Hubert Boyd Hudson.
The sight from the air was awe-inspiring. In this chaos, millions of refugees were struggling to get to India or Pakistan. Thousands of others were doing their best to prevent them, murdering them by the hundred. But death is nothing. There are things more terrible than death.
So, you all have seen the video, and before coming to the explanation part, let me ask you some questions. Now, which Muslim League leader is discussed in this video? Yes, it's Mr. Jinnah. Now, another question, and name some other leaders in the video which you can identify. Yes, it's Pandit Nehru. Yes, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And yes, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. He is also known as the Iron Man of India. Next question. One milestone you might have seen in the video. Which 3 cities were written on that? Yes, it was Khanna, Lahore and Ludhiana. Very correct. Now let's come to another question. What was the name of the Viceroy, the last Viceroy mentioned here? Yes, it was Lord Mountbatten. Very good. So you people are very good observers. So let's come to the consequences of partition. It says that the year 1947 was a year of one of the largest, most abrupt, unplanned and tragic transfer of population that human history has known. There were killings and atrocities on both sides of border. In the name of religion, people of one community ruthlessly killed and maimed people of other communities. Cities like Lahore, Amritsar and Kolkata became divided into communal zones. Muslims would avoid going into an area where mainly Hindus or Sikhs lived. Similarly, the Hindus and Sikhs stayed away from area of Muslim predominance. Forced to abandon their homes and move across borders, people went through immense sufferings. Minorities on both sides of border fled their home and often secured temporary shelter in the refugee camps. They often found unhelpful local administration and police in what was till recently their own country. They traveled to the other side of the new border by all sort of means, often by foot. Even during their journey, they were often attacked, killed, or raped. Thousands of women were abducted on both sides of border. They were made to convert to the religion of abductor and were forced into marriage. In many cases, women were killed by their own family members to preserve the family honor. Many children were separated from their parents. Those who did manage to cross the border found that they had no home. For lack of these refugees, the country's freedom meant life in refugee camps for months and sometimes for years. So this is in brief, it is there just before you. It resulted in the largest, most abrupt and tragic transfer of population, resulted in killings and atrocities on both sides of border. Women were killed, raped and forced into marriages. Minorities became the easy target of attackers and people were forced to abandon their homes, live in refugee camps. Now the condition of the partition of India, many writers, poets and filmmakers, they have depicted in their stories, in their novels and in movies also. So writers, poets and filmmakers in India and Pakistan have expressed the ruthlessness of killings and the sufferings of displacement and violence in their novels, short stories, poems and films. While recounting the trauma of partition, they have often used the phrase that the survivors themselves used to describe partition as division of hearts. Now here in the slide they have discussed two poets. First is Faiz Ahmad Faiz, who wrote in Urdu describing the partition related violence and the atrocities people suffered from. He was regarded as one of the greatest poets of South Asia in 20th century. The second poetess they are discussing here is from Punjabi literature and she is Amrita Pritam, who wrote in her poem expressing her loneliness for peace, love and brotherhood that was lost during the partition. At the last, I would like to show you one link of the BBC documentary which you can watch at home, and this can be your home assignment also. This is a 1.5 hour and of course you will be getting whatever we have discussed today in detail. So students, this was the end of today's lecture. I hope you have enjoyed the journey of making of India till now, but it is full of difficulties, pain and atrocities, and we should respect and retain the freedom we have got with us with so much of difficulties. Thank you class. We will be meeting soon for the next session.